Nick here, and welcome to my Doctor Who Series 3 ranking. And as promised, I am wearing my shirt that I showed off at the end of my Blink review. I also wore this shirt when I did my review of Utopia, Sound Drums and Last of the Tunnels, as well as a review of Forever and a Day, the James Bond book, which is currently down here, and some more videos surrounding that. So, okay, moving on to the Doctor Who Series 3 ranking. For me, Doctor Who Series 3 might actually have taken over Series 1 as my current favourite series of Doctor Who. Of the new series. Yeah, to be honest, it doesn't have as many 10 out of 10 episodes as Series 1 or 2. Those two both had 4. Well, Series 2 had 3 if you discount the Christmas Invasion. But this time round, I think was a stronger series overall. The weaker episodes of this series were still stronger. I mean, to be honest, I don't hate Fear Her. I think it's I think it's okay. I had a bit of fun with it, but ultimately it's not that good. But I didn't hate it, so that's why that one got the score it did. But in terms of overall series, I think Series 3 is just stronger than Series 1 and 2 were, apart from some weird editing transitions that I've been complaining about all series. I really hope Series 4 drops it. So let's get down with this ranking of currently the strongest new series of the first 3 at least. So the episodes we'll be taking a look at are The Runaway Bride, Smith and Jones, The Shakespeare Code, Gridlock, Daleks in Manhatten and Evolution of the Daleks, The Lazurus Experiment, 42, Human Nature and the Family of Blood, Blink, and Utopia, The Sound of Drums, and The Last of the Time Lords. Before we do that, however, a quick honourable mention to a story that was sort of made during around this time. It's sort of set during Series 3 and even got it was shown in 12 parts across the spin-off series Totally Doctor Who, with the 13th and final parts coming as part of an omnibus edition of the episode being shown a few hours before The Last of the Time Lords. So technically, if I was to do this review in order, review it after The Last of the Time Lords, it should have been reviewed after Last of the Time Lords, but as I explained in my Lazurus Experiment in 42 reviews, that would not make sense as Martha Jones has already left the TARDIS. And chronologically wise, it actually makes sense to go between 42 and Human Nature. So, but as this one's not a proper Series 3 story, it can't be counted on the ranking as proper, so it's an honourable mention and bonus review. And that is The Infinite Quest. Yeah, I think this is a good story nevertheless. I think it's fun. I think the animation from Cosgrove Hall, rather Firestep, working with Cosgrove Hall, it's a bit of a step down from Scream the Shulker and The Invasion, but it's still one of the stronger animated stories. I mean, certainly compared to Dreamland and The Reign of Terror's missing 2 episodes. I mean, God, don't ever get me started on those again. But yeah, compared to the previous Cosgrove Hall stuff, this one is weaker in animation. But I think it's probably the best in audio. It's just some fantastic voice work done here for a nice little animated episode. Wouldn't mind seeing some more. I mean, you've got Dreamland coming up, but that's about it at the moment, besides reanimated missing episodes from now on. Okay, moving on to the actual series, starting with number 10. Despite being my least favourite 2 episodes of this series, I still find this this 2-part story from Series 3, and I forgot to show this when I introduced the box set, introduced the ranking. But despite being my least favourite story from Series 3, I still liked it. I felt it was really good and really entertaining and just quite fun. Daleks in Manhatten and Evolution of the Daleks. Yeah, I like it. I think it's a good story. It has some good moments. There's some good bits. There's some good story in it. Sometimes it's a bit unfocused and stuff, and I think it's the weakest directed 2 episodes of the series. And there is just some questionable choices now and again. But I still think it's a pretty fun and enjoyable story. The Daleks are great. Nicholas Briggs continues to be great, even if it's possibly his weakest Dalek performances. Possibly, I don't actually know what his weakest ones could be, to be honest. it's Nicholas Bloody Briggs. He's fantastic all the freaking time. So yeah, actually, I have no complaints then. When it comes to Dalek voices or Dalek writing, Helen Rayner gets the Daleks, which is just as well. She script edited the previous 3 Dalek stories. It is a bit strange that this story does come 5 stories after Doomsday, and whilst the younger me would have been super hyped to see the Daleks again this early in the series, I do think maybe perhaps coming a little bit later on might have been helpful. That being said, later stories in the series are exactly where they need to be. So maybe halfway through, exactly like 42 area. But maybe the stories are exactly where they need to be. So it kind of makes sense to do the Dalek story here, and it does give them an even longer break to the next one. So I guess it's just as well they can get the Daleks out of the way and then get on with the master subplot story arc throughout the series and everything else that needs to take place in series 3. And then series 4 can be its own thing before the super mega Dalek finale. We'll expect a mega review for that finale as well next time, in a few weeks' time, guys. But on the whole, I think Daleks in Manhattan Evolution of Daleks is just a good episode. I think it's good 2 episodes. Daleks in Manhattan is definitely the better half, but I still found it enjoyable and entertaining and great to watch. It's a good story. It's good. You can tell that this is going to be a positive ranking just from that. That I think the weakest story of the series is good. And whilst we're at it, the Infinite Quest would be, if I was including that would be next, and then my number nine choice. So yeah, Infinite Quest would probably would be 9.5 on this list. Number 9 is the Lazurus Experiment. Another good episode. There isn't a huge amount going for it, but when it does right. Good directing this time around, and decent script. It's got some good moments. It moves the story arc a little bit further in places. It's also quite important for the finale in a small capacity. It's good. I think it's a fine episode. I think it's more of a filler story this series than any other, but it is a good one. It is handled well, and it does get Martha a chance to go back home and see some members of her family. And it's also great to see Mark Gatiss play a character in the series for the first time. And yeah, I think it's a good episode. I think it's a good story as well. And yeah, I think it's good. Not especially amazing, but it was good. I think I was nice and gave it an 8 out of 10. I was leaning towards the 7, but in the end, I thought it's well done. I think it gets itself the 8 just about. Maybe on reflection, maybe it should have gone to 7, but maybe this series is just too good, as Rose Tyler would put it. Moving on to number 8. This one actually, I enjoyed this one. I had a good time with it. I had some really entertaining bits with it, but it could have been better, at least on an execution basis. And there's a big reason for that. But the story itself is also quite fun and engaging and entertaining. Although the main supporting character is a bit one-dimensional. The Runaway Bride. The 2006 Christmas special, bit of a step down or two from the 2005 one. Donna Noble is definitely a one-dimensional character in this story, but don't worry, she becomes 3D next series, I promise. Which means that earlier on she can be a bit annoying, but later on she's a bit more fun and likable. Catherine Tate does a great job in the role, and also Lance is a pretty good character, as is the Empress of the Ragnos. But it's here that the 10th Doctor is able to step out of the shadows of a happy-go-lucky relationship with Rose and just get into darker territory that the 10th Doctor hadn't gone down before. Well, a little bit to start with, but this time round he's getting moodier. And I'm liking how that's going. It's also a fun episode here, and probably the closest we're going to get to a pantomime, a proper one anyway. And this or Husbands of River Song, it was one or the other. Or both of them, maybe. But yeah, I think this one was a good story. I think it was a pretty good episode and a nice Christmas adventure. I especially really enjoyed that the motorway scene with the TARDIS flying on the motorway. That was really good, really great. and really enjoyable. I don't know if such a sequence would ever have been done for a normal episode of the series, so it feels suited for a Christmas special. Maybe a series finale, perhaps. Moving on to number 7. Number 7, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for putting this one higher than last on this page because Chris Chibnall wrote it. And Chris Chibnall is apparently the worst person who ever lived at the moment. Fuck this fan base. But no, 42 is actually a pretty good episode. And that's my number 7 choice. 42. Yeah, 42 is a fun, engaging, entertaining, and riveting adventure. I don't care who wrote it. You could say what you like about the Chibnall era at the moment. Personally, I think it's okay. There's some great episodes and there's some not so great episodes, and even some of the good ones have some bits that I'm not so keen on. And the whole arc at the moment is questionable. And whilst I'm not so keen on it, I won't make a big fuss about it, unlike other people. But despite what he's doing with his own era, we have to take what his stories are like in previous eras and just roll with them as they are. Same with Stephen Moffat, and also with Gareth Roberts, who's a pretty controversial writer at the moment. We'll just see what their stories are like and roll with them, okay? And for me, 42 is a good story. I think it's fun, enjoyable. Graham Harper does some great direction there, although I think he's even better with Utopia and some other stories in the Russell T Davies era, plus also his 2 classic stories. I think 42 could be his weakest directed story. This and maybe elements of Revelation of the Daleks. But besides that, but I'm not sure. I'll make a final decision after Journey's End. But yeah, it's a fun, enjoyable story. It got some great moments and pretty riveting in places, and just absolutely great and dripping with stuff. It's a nice little self-contained story with elements of the story arc seeped in there, and I love how this episode is actually the first episode to have the Masters Series 3 theme in there. The not the four knocks themselves, but the Masters theme by Murray Gold. It's a great theme, and it's played here. It's got some nice motifs here. You actually got also in Utopia, you get some nice motifs of this is Gallifrey, our home, our childhood, incorporated into that story before we actually get that bit in Sound of Drums. And all the strange creatures get some nice early use in Gridlock before becoming more and more used later on in the series. But yeah, 42, I had a great time with it. And I don't care whether you think Chris Chibnall's ruining this show at the moment or not. We're talking about 40-2. Okay? This is a Chris Chibnall episode in the Russell T Davies era, not a Chris Chibnall episode in the Chris Chibnall era. Got it? And same for Moffat with Blink. Number 6 is an episode I actually kind of praised quite a lot of when I watched it, but following other great episodes in the series, it's now dropped to 6th, which is interesting, but hey-ho, nevertheless. Also, this episode is written by a controversial writer, so maybe it's just as well it's this low for their point of view. In fact, maybe it should have been lower for them, but, again, with the whole 42 stuff, I'm judging the episodes as episodes, okay? And this is the Shakespeare Code. Yeah, again, controversial writer, this time for different reasons, but I'm judging the episodes as an episode, okay? I'm judging how this story works in its own context, not how good or bad the writer is as a whole, or their eras, or their points of view, or whatever. I don't give a damn about that right now. I'm caring only about the episodes right in front of me in this bloody box set, which is a lovely box set, actually. I got an Amazon exclusive. You're absolutely beautiful. But you know what I mean. I only care about the episodes in this box set right now. If you want to talk to me about the other episodes of the Chibnall era, or if you want to talk to me about Gareth Roberts' politics, then let's talk about it another day. Right now, we're talking about Series fucking 3. Alright? Why am I getting so riled up? Well, it's because I'm expecting people to talk about these things when I don't think this is the right time to do it. I'm talking about Series 3, and I only care about Series 3 right now. I'll mention other stories, I'll mention other episodes, I'll mention other things, but for right here, right now, we're focusing on Series 3, The Infinite Quest, and The Runaway Bride. That's it. Just these 15 episodes. okay? And if you are the people who are respecting that, thank you very much. You are wonderful. You are absolutely lovely. Love you. Okay, Shakespeare Code, had a great time with it. Fun story. Yeah, it was pretty great. I think it might be Gareth Roberts' strongest story? Question mark. I mean, I do like Unicorn and the Wasp. I thought that was pretty great. I guess we'll have to see where it goes. At the moment, it's one of those two. Um, but yeah, I thought it was a good. I thought it was a great story. Really engaging, really enjoyable. Some of the supporting cast could have gotten more to do, but nevertheless, we got a great Shakespeare episode. Moving on to number 5. This one is a big one. This is a massive, massive story, and it's 3 parts. The only 3-part story of the new series, Utopia, The Sound of Drums, and The Last of the Time Lords, is my number 5 choice. What a way to end this series. Utopia is outstanding. The setup it's building is amazing, but it doesn't feel like a mostly set up story because it's doing its own thing at the same time. It's doing mostly its own thing, and then come the last act, it sets up the finale fantastically. It's subtly, slowly moving away, moving into the final couple of minutes where the master is revealed, and we possibly get the best cliffhanger of the series. Sorry, human nature. It's this or Sound of Drums. To be honest, the cliffhangers this series have been pretty great. The Dalek one's probably the weakest by default, but still, it's a pretty cool cliffhanger, nevertheless. Utopia is just, I bloody love it. If that was an individual episode, that would be second on this list. That would be second. Sorry, my number 2 choice, which I won't reveal just yet. That it would be second, but it's with this 3-parter. Sound of Drums is also a great episode. I thought that was really engaging, really enjoyable, and absolutely magnificent. Last of the Time Lords was also a really great episode, but I think the way it resolved itself could have been handled a bit better, maybe slightly, but it was still a really good and enjoyable finale. It probably tops Doomsday and Army of Ghosts as a better finale over that, but it's still no Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways. And I think it's because of that climax it's because of this. I think it doesn't quite make that. That's why it's a 9, not a 10 out of 10, despite... Well, actually, I might think I changed my mind. Sound of Drums, I would now give a 9 out of 10 as an individual episode. So actually, I wouldn't give that a 10 like I said in the review. So I've changed my mind about that. So yeah, this one does fit as a 9. But Utopia is undoubtedly a 10. But despite that, the story itself is a 9 because of the other 2 episodes. Yeah, like I said, I've changed my mind on Sound of Drums. Otherwise, this one should be at the next spot. Never mind. But nevertheless, I think this is a great story and really, really great way to end the finale. I just think the climax could have been better. Well, not so much the climax, the resolution could have been better. And again, it's a great finale, and just wow, just absolutely wow. And Martha Jones has just proven herself to be one of the best Doctor Who companions of the entire show, just from the last episode alone, at the very least. Let alone the rest of the series. She's just a great character and really enjoyed her. Outside of this story, I think her best story is actually The Infinite Quest, would you believe? But after that, but besides that, it's probably this one. This great story and really enjoyable. I'm kind of sorry that Blink's in this series now, because that meant we got one less episode with Martha doing great stuff. But, you know, with so many other great episodes, it's forgivable. Plus, Blink's Blink, so... Moving on to number 4. Number 4. Now, we've just talked about the series finale, but let's go all the way back to the other end of the series for the very first episode of the series, Smith and Jones. This is a great way to start the series. This is a really great start. We get introduced to Martha, her family, who, over the course of the series, Leo gets absolutely nothing to do. Clive gets a bit to do in the last 2 episodes, but barely in the series besides that. Francine's really good, and probably gets the most to do. Tish becomes another protagonist in Lazurus Experiment, but not so much in the other episodes. She's just there. It's kind of between her and Francine, which one of the two gets more to do in the series. out of them, and then Francine makes appearances in series 4, so in 2 episodes. So yes, and probably gets also a bit more character growth in series 3 as well, with Lazurus Experiment 42 and the finale. But still, I never mind. But yeah, that's really the only kind of disappointment. Yeah, that is one disappointing thing about series 3, is that they didn't really do much with the family, especially Leo, who barely gets anything to do, which isn't very fair because he was actually quite fun in the bits he did get. And Clive, we could have had more time to flesh out his character, and Francine and Tish were actually pretty good characters. We should have got more time with all of them. Really, that's a disappointment thing. Again, if I know I don't want to bash Blink, but if that was in another series, then perhaps we could have another episode with Martha and her family, perhaps. But I don't want to bash Blink, but I just feel like we needed one more episode with Martha and her family. It's a bit of a shame, really. Maybe this series should have been 14 episodes. Discluding Runaway Bride or Infinite Quest. But anyway, Smith & Jones is a great story, really great way to start the series, with the Doctor and Martha meeting up at Royal Hope Hospital. It's a really great start. And it also introduces Big Chief Rhino Boys the Jadoon, who are great. This is probably still their best episode, even after 13 years, and a couple more appearances, both cameos as well as main roles in Fugitive of the Jadoon and the Sarah Jane Adventure story Prisoner of the Jadoon, both of which capture the Jadoon essence from this story really well. But I think this one still takes the crown for best Jadoon story, including cameos. But yeah, still a really great story and really enjoyable. I also love Anne Reid as the Plasmavore. She's just delicious. Especially after playing a less interesting character in The Curse of Fenric. She gets to sink her teeth into this role, or rather her little straw. Oh, that was cool. Think of her as the modern space vampire. Well, the great vampires aren't around anymore. You're gonna have to make do with these guys. Or the fish ones from Series 5. Your choice. Okay, moving on to the top 3, and these are 10 out of 10 territories. Again, like Series 1 and 2, not as many 10 out of 10s this time round, but unlike Series 1 and 2, the weaker episodes are still good, whilst ones in Series 2 and 1 are, in my opinion, okay, pretty good in places, but not quite as good. I know some people are going to take umbrage with that, saying some of them should be worse than meh. But this is my personal list, so whatever. But yeah, Series 3, I find, like I said, has stronger, weaker episodes than the previous series, even if they have more better episodes. Or, well, more 10 out of 10 episodes, I should say. But starting Series 3's trio of 10 out of 10s, that's actually a pretty good number considering. And also works pretty well in the fact that it's the third series. Gridlock. Yeah, it's all threes with this one, isn't it? It's a third episode of the series. Third time to New York. Third Face of Boeing story. Well, it's not actually, it's the second time to New York. Third Face of Bo story. And it's the third of the 5 billion and something stories. It's a great story filled with great personal edge with the Doctor and Martha. Well, the Doctor's to try and find Martha after she's been kidnapped, so to speak, or carjacked again, so to speak. Probably the earliest, best supporting cast of an episode. I mean, I did like Runaway Brides, but not as much. And Smith and Jones and Shakespeare Code, it was not really. But I think this one is the earliest, best supporting cast, and we've got some great ones here. Daleks Manhatten 2-parter, Human Nature, Minor Extent 42, Blink, and the finale. Some great supporting characters. It's only really Lazurus Experiments that's a bit of a letdown in supporting characters after this one. And it's just a really great ride and really a great adventure. And the Macra's inclusion is just helps to make even more exciting and even more tense and tenseful. It's a well-crafted story, and it works really well. It's also the most strategic episode in the series, considering what it's setting up for the finale, as well as also for the Dalek story, with the Doctor's mention of the Daleks there, and as well as the Martha-Doctor relationship that we'll explore throughout the series. So Gridlock was certainly placed in the exact right spot. There's not many episodes I'd say could be placed in the exact right spot, but I think third for this story was exactly the right place it needed to go, and it just works brilliantly. This also helps that the Dalek story is actually next, to be honest, because Martha knows that there are they're a big threat from the Doctor's discussion about it. If the Dalek story had come sooner, it wouldn't have worked as well. But anyway, this is a great episode. Really enjoyed it. And in my opinion, it's a much better story than the Macra Terror, their original 1960s first outing. Buy your pitchforks and torches here. Okay, top 2, and I think a lot of people will be happy to see these 3 episodes in the top 2 spots. Starting with number 2. Now, it's depending on who you ask, these 2 will usually swap around unless someone else has a different opinion about the top 2 or top 1. But these 2 usually are fighting out for best of the series between different fans, whoever you ask. And for me, this is how I put it, and I feel a bit typical doing it this way, but you know what? Sometimes I'm very different to other fans, and sometimes I'm very similar to other fans. It's a thing we all have. It's the same with every other thing. It's you can have a completely different list to other fans in the maybe if you got lots of fans in a room and you did a whole different list. Calvin Dyson talks about it a few times in some of his Bond videos. That you can get several different fans in a room and they can have a completely different list of many things. And even if the top or bottom or middle stuff are very similar or the same all the time, but but the lists themselves very rarely are they exactly the same. Sometimes I've had some lists of things that are the same or very similar, but what's interesting is that we're all different. So yeah. And my number 2 choice is a typical is a case of yeah, that one makes sense to be second or first, whatever. Human Nature and the Family of Blood. Now, this one's mainly here due to the emotional rollercoaster ride of the story, as we getting to know John Smith really well, and we're getting to really get invested with the characters as well. Some really great supporting characters here. I especially love Tim Latimer. He's a great character, and those final few scenes in episode 9 are just they really made me emotional. Those final bits, and that was more for the World War I stuff than the other story. But John Smith's story arc is also really emotional and really great, and how it works into the plot of the story. It's a great episode. It's also really fun to see the Family of Blood just go all out to try and survive and find the Doctor in the last episode. It's really great. Human Nature is more set up, but it's done in a really good way, really enjoyable, and being based on a novel by the original novel by Paul Cornell, it actually works really well being a 2-parter. The slower build in the first episode and the more action and adrenaline and emotional conclusion in the second, and just absolutely brilliant. Just an absolute brilliant 2-parter. There's a reason why so many people love this episode, and I now jumped on the Human Nature Family of Blood bandwagon, and now really like this one a lot as well. Certainly 10 out of 10 territory. So yeah, if Human Nature does pretty much tick all the boxes more or less, apart from a few editing transition editing spots, about 2, roughly 2, maybe about 2 or 3, then what could possibly be better than Human Nature and the Family of Blood? One that could even have been missing from this episode and wouldn't make much of a difference, but yet its inclusion to the series just makes it stand out even more. What possible episode could possibly beat Human Nature and the Family of Blood of being the best episode of Series 3? What possible is Blink? Number 1's Blink. Yeah, it's me. And like I said, these top 2 are super typical. You're either going to have Human Nature Family of Blood first or Blink first. And for me, it's Blink first, then Human Nature Family of Blood. And I've gushed over this episode in its review, and I've mentioned it's not only is it my favourite episode of the series, it's my favourite episode of the 10th Doctor's era so far, maybe overall. Currently, it's my second favourite episode of the mid to late 2000s episodes after Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways, and one of my favourite, not just new series stories, but stories overall in the show. It's just an outstanding story. For starters, Stephen Moffat, don't care what you think about him as showrunner right now. I only care about Blink at the very moment. I don't even care about his other Russell T Davies episodes at the moment. We're talking Blink and Blink only. And also the short story that inspired it. But Blink and What I Did on My Holidays by Sally Sparrow, and that's it for right now. We can talk about everything else another day. But he did a fantastic episode here. He wrote a fantastic, tense, chilling, horror-filled, yet also emotional, character-driven script. Actually, I will jump in with something about his era. He should have done more of that. I mean, Series 5 was going in that direction, but further along down the line should have done a bit more of that. Well, Series 10 a little bit, but not so much. Anyway, back to Blink. But yeah, he did a fantastic job here, and just amazing. And now I will actually mention the other Russell T Davies stories. There is a reason why many fans wanted him to take over the show when Russell T Davies left, and it's this and Silence in the Library Forest of the Dead that cemented that. So say what you like about the Moffat era now, but before he took over, these episodes were cementing the reason why fans wanted him to take over. And you can't deny there was a bloody good, obvious reason why they wanted that. So yeah, I guess it's a case of be careful what you wish for, but yet it's not always a bad choice, to be honest. Not at least not to begin with, anyway. Anyway, going back to Blink exclusively again, Hattie MacDonald only directed 3 episodes of Doctor Who, and this is her standout. The only other 2 were in Series 9. Those ones were alright on the direction-wise. We'll get onto those at a later date. But she did an outstanding job here. Blink is just a visual masterpiece. Carey Mulligan is the second best guest star of the series after Derek Jacobi as the kindly Professor Yana and the Master in Utopia. P.S. John Barrowman and Catherine Tate are counted as main characters for the stories they are in. So Carey Mulligan, second best guest star of the series after Derek Jacobi, and the other supporting cast is also really good, and it's a nice small bunch of characters just for this story spread out across the episode. Take the hint, Chibnall, and it's just a really nicely tightly executed story, just nice and tight, really good, and a great standalone story. And I also like how the short story it's based on is good for what it is. It's a really fun and enjoyable story, but you couldn't make 45 minutes out of that, so you change it up a bit. You make a lot of quite a bit of changes, but keep the core elements alive and throw in the Weeping Angels for good measure, and you have an all-time classic. And you invent an all-time classic monster before they get overused. And not even so much having several stories to just get lots of cameos and lose their fear factor, and it's just like, oh, the Weeping Angels are back, cool. As opposed to the Weeping Angels are coming back, like the first time they were coming back in Series 5. There was a reason why we were excited for that. But after Series 7, apart from Class, where it was a bit of a surprise, but they didn't really have a proper story after The Angels Take Manhattan, so it was just like, oh, the Weeping Angels having a cameo. The first cameo in God Complex was great, but after Angels Take Manhattan, apart from Class, it was like, oh, the Weeping Angels are back. And it's not even an actual Weeping Angel story, it's just a cameo. But there's no denying there's a reason why Blink is still today hailed as an all-time classic, or at least a new series classic. There's a reason why it came second on both 2009 and 2014 Doctor Who magazine polls of greatest stories of all time. And it's just an absolute masterpiece. And it's also my mum's favourite story, and yeah, she's obviously got good taste in Doctor Who. So, wrapping up this list, before the video goes on too long and I lose my voice because I've made so many videos today, there's so many long videos as well. To wrap up my Series 3 ranking, number 10 is Daleks in Manhattan and the Evolution of the Daleks. Number 9 is the Lazurus Experiment. Number 8 is the Runaway Bride. Number 7 is 42. Number 6 is the Shakespeare Code. Number 5 is Utopia, the Sound of Drums, and the Last of the Time Lords. Number 4 is Smith and Jones. Number 3 is Gridlock. Number 2 is Human Nature and the Family Blood. And number 1 is Blink. And honourable mention to The Infinite Quest, which doesn't really count as Series 3, but it's chronologically, supposedly comes between 42 and Human Nature. It's around sometime during Series 3. And what broadcasted was technically before Last of the Time Lords, but again, review had to come halfway through for chronological reasons, and the fact that if it was done after Last of the Time Lords 3-part review, it wouldn't make sense because Martha's already left by then. Why are we going back to a previous story? So it just made sense to do it midway. So that's it from Series 3 reviews and my Series 3 ranking. Thank you so much for watching these reviews, and thank you so much for watching this ranking. And this has been a fantastic series. This has been such a great series. I really enjoyed it. Really entertaining and so much great stuff. David Tennant has upped himself as the Doctor. Freeman Regiment is amazing as Martha Jones. Loved the return of John Barrowman as Captain Jack. Whilst the writing for John Simm's Master could have been a bit better, I think John Simm himself did a great job in the role, as did Derek Jacobi, who also played the fantastic kindly Professor Yana, and Carrie Mulligan carries Blink basically on her own. Also, props for David Tennant being absolutely fantastic as John Smith in the Human Nature two-parter, and as usual, Nicholas Briggs is outstanding as the voice of the Daleks and the Jadoon. And also some pretty great supporting characters in most of the episodes, and even the ones that didn't have the best supporting characters still had some great cast in it. Series 3 is definitely the start of peak Doctor Who, but next series, as far as a general audience was concerned, the show hit its highest highs. Peak Doctor Who arrives next series with Series 4. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that idea. Could Series 4 be the best series of all time? Stay tuned to find out, and I will continue the Doctor Who reviews after my watchings of the episodes, continuing next time with the 2007's Christmas special, Voyage of the Damned, plus a mini review of the 2007 Children Need Special Time Crash, and then after those, Series 4 begins with Partners in Crime, and I hope to see you guys next time for all of that. Until then, thank you for watching. Don't forget to vote Saxon, or don't vote Saxon, it's your choice, and goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. And a couple of videos around some James Bond books as well. So let's get down. The episodes we'll be taking a look at are Utopia, the Soundra. The 2006. Donna Noble is a one-dimensional character and is a bit other supporting casts include. But it's here that the 10th Doctor, after the events of Doomsday, is able to step out of the happy-go-lucky relationship with Rose Tyler, Light, Shadows, and Christian, who's apparently the worst person who ever lived at the moment of this fanbase. Fuck, I hate this fanbase. And okay, I won't make. Despite not liking it, I don't want to make it. It worked. I think yeah. Good. But yeah, 42. I thought it was good. Okay, moving on. And I don't know who would criticize Blink apart from actually, honestly, disliking it if they did. But other than that, yeah, I shall cut that bit. Just these four. Thank you for. And if you're some of the people. Is the complete other. Which is fun, which isn't very good because. I don't want to bash Blink because, as you'll see later, it's higher on this list. Anyway, so moving on, especially after a bit of a after she played a bit more of a lukewarm. Moving on to number 3. These are now we're into top. But starting off Series 3's trio of 10 out of 10s is Gridlock. But starting Series 3's 10. But starting. And well, I suppose it's the third in the well, I say third new firm, more like it's a good story and really. It's probably the first case of and in my opinion, it's a better macro story than their original macro Buy your pitchforks and talks. Number 2. Now this one, I think a lot of people will be happy to see here. Well, the same. Well, especially in the second episode of the two-parter. Just sort these books out. What episode of series 3, one that could even have been better? What possible episode could top its Blink? Number one's Blink. I mean, what else could it be? It's me. My number one choice is Blink. It's Blink. It's one of my favourite episodes of the entire show. Currently, it's the second best episode of the mid 2000s, and yeah, currently it's my favourite of the mid. Currently it's my second. Currently, it's my second favourite of the mid 2000s to, and again, one of my top. Okay, now we're going back to Blink exclusively. Okay, yeah. It's a great script, great direction from Haki. Anyway, going back to Blink exclusive, and this has John Barrowman as a main role, and you include not even in a proper story. But nevertheless, she's also a Peter Davison fan, so I went. Well, she's a big. Actually, I won't count that. To wrap this up, to wrap up the ranking of my series 3. But next series is where the show reached the highest highs it ever did, as far as any. And peak Doctor Who arrives next time, and next series, peak Doctor plus a minisode